moistly.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Speaking Moistly, and with me, as usual, is Greg. How you doing, sir?
Doing fantastic. Doing fantastic. Historic day, January 6th. Let's go.
Indeed, historic. They're doing the counting now in the chamber, whichever chamber they're counting in, and there's already been some objections. I don't know if they call them objections, and so they're debating and having conversation and presenting evidence. Trump spoke earlier today, and it seemed like a campaign style speech. It was okay, but I don't know. Nothing really of note has happened yet. We're a little early for anything really major to discuss. I mean, we can look at this giant crowd that's in Washington. Did you see the pictures of this?
I did. That's a lot of people. That is a lot of people.
Trump said during his address that he didn't do any advertising for this. He just sent out like a tweet or maybe a couple of tweets. We'll be wild, and that's what showed up. That's incredible.
Yeah, and it's like, could reverse the situation. Do people really think Biden could get those numbers?
Really? Yeah. I mean,
I don't know.
Do people pay?
I doubt. I'm hitting X for doubt right now.
Yeah.
Doubting.
I would agree. I don't know that this number would show up for Biden. Well, not for supporting Biden anyway. Let's say that. Here's some footage from the Capitol. This is Tim Pool responding. He says, "Holy F. Breaking: Trump supporters have breached the Capitol building, tearing down 4 layers of security fencing, and are attempting to occupy the building, fighting federal police who are overrun. This is the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. Thousands. Police can't stop them." And
I was going to say the power of the people,
the
power of the people, has a very literal meaning here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if that's the amount of people that a Capitol Police force is trying to hold back, and I'm looking at the first video here, if that's the amount of people, that's very difficult to convince to, obey the rules when they feel like the police aren't really representing them or their interests at this point in time, right? Like it's a very fine line, very difficult to walk. And when there's millions of disenfranchised people in the streets,
look how biblical that picture looks too, with like the clouds opening up and like the light shining through.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Simba.
To point that out.
It is very, phallic. Anyway, we'll move on.
Yeah.
So back home, Premier Ford in Quebec, first, they're talking about a lockdown with curfews. With curfews, they want curfews. Yeah, they want curfews. They want restrictions on shopping. They want all sorts of. They only leave once a week. They want to stop office work. They want to stop construction work. They want a harder lockdown than March. So people are asking about that in Ontario, and Premier Ford is being evasive. This is somebody who's in that press pool, I guess. He says, Premier Ford on question of curfews from City Cynthia, "I'll talk to the CMOH regarding any further restrictions," and pivoted back to emphasis on vaccines. So it's looking like we're heading for another lockdown. Certainly in Quebec, it looks like, I think they're kicking off their lockdown today, and that's been in the news. I haven't heard anything about further restrictions announced in Ontario, but I heard a rumor that it's going to be announced tomorrow. So that's not great. What do you think?
Well, you know what, Mark? I called it. I was telling my parents, I was telling my friends that this was going to happen because they were saying, well, we'll just wait until lockdown ends for us to see our family. And I told them that's not going to happen.
Yep.
There's going to be, the lockdown's going to keep going. I don't know why you think that, I don't know if you've been here the last year, but the first they said it was 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
But just 2 more weeks. Yeah, just 2 more weeks. Sure. Okay. No, it's not surprising, but it's obviously, I only hope that more average people start to kind of tilt their head more to the point where they're actually going to, I don't know, just show a fiber of sort of independence, or I don't even want to call it defiance as much as it is like, some sort of fiber of like human decency or like awareness of what's going on here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is. So I don't wear masks typically, and they've inverted this to mean that I don't care about people. And
Yep.
so, when you
and there's no nuance on it at all, by the way.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. It's a very
Yeah.
interesting thing because
You're
like
psycho killer
yeah.
for not wearing a mask.
And there's no evidence. There's no evidence that asymptomatic spread is a thing. Like this is something that was speculated. There was a test done in Wuhan of 10 million people that looked at the asymptomatic. They looked at the close contacts of asymptomatic positives, and it found that not one person, not one, was sick. So that's really interesting, right? Like if you look at all of the close contacts and nobody's sick, asymptomatic spread seems like it's not true. And I'm not even saying let's believe the study. Let's do our own study. How about we even know? Do you know? I don't know. How many people in the daily case numbers actually have symptoms? How many people of like the 3,000 positive tests we get in Ontario a day actually have symptoms? Do you know?
Well, it's just on and on and on, right? Like that's just one aspect of this. Yeah. And when you talk about deaths, you talk about who's specifically dying, the comorbidities. Like the science is just stacking up, and of course, for people paying attention, the science that is ignored and is treated like it doesn't exist or holds no merit whatsoever is just stacking up more and more.
Yep.
This huge mountain of information that some of which, of course, is coming from the WHO even, which kind of bothers me for a whole other reason, because it's like this prestigious organization, we're supposed to believe that it's okay when they're wrong and then change their mind later. And that's just like people have accepted that it's okay when they completely mess up, have the wrong opinion and then change it later.
Well,
yeah, that's just the way prestigious organizations work, Greg. Like that's kind of like what I'm met with from people. And it's like, no, like these are supposed to be the experts. These are supposed to be these virologists and scientists and health experts that have been working their entire life to get it right.
Yeah. And the funny thing is too, we fund it. It's not like it's like this organization that's third party. It's an organization that influences the government's decisions that it makes on our behalf, but they're being influenced by this other organization that we give the government money to then give to them. So we're funding them, and we don't have any direct control. Like how do we fire Dr. Tam or Dr. Etches or Dr. Davila or any of the other ones or Dr. Mercer, right? How do you fire the local health public official who doesn't stand up for people and who won't talk about the opium crisis or the opium deaths? There's still more opium deaths in Guelph than there are COVID deaths. And the funny thing is, just to get a quick aside, it's 2021 now, so we had one more person die of with COVID-19. I don't know if they died of COVID-19. And our mayor, Cam Guthrie, releases a tweet saying 15 people have died with COVID-19. Please, please, please stay safe. And my thought is, when does the case number reset? Like at what point is it now like a new, it's a new month, man. Like it was.
Yeah. It's like it feels like a COVID mafia, right?
Yeah.
It's like, like somebody sent me an article. Sorry, I didn't have it up here, but it said in BC, people aren't just dying of like a lot of young men are dying in BC, and it's not just because of COVID-19. That was the headline.
Really?
And when you look into it, it talks about drug overdoses, talks about all these other things, and then and in the article itself, it says actually a very small amount of people have died of COVID. So it's like, why is this article even talking about COVID and COVID deaths if we're talking about people who have died of other things? Like it's so perverted. It's perverting our sense of like really our perception of death and of health when it's like always through the lens of COVID, where it's like, why are we mentioning COVID in this article when we're admitting the predominance of death is from other issues like mental health, suicide and drug overdose? Like why does COVID have to even be brought up here? Only, like I would argue, only because of the whole lockdown aspect. But like the way the headline especially was framed was so misleading, basically saying, yeah, like it was, there were COVID deaths aside from COVID as well. And it's like, no, COVID was like the smallest amount of deaths of that group actually.
Yeah.
So it's like the way the headline is framed is just like this weird COVID thing. Like we need to look at everything through COVID. Like we're going to start looking at basketball scores and stats of like, well, like how good is his jump shot? Does he have COVID or not?
Yeah.
It's complete insanity.
What percentage of the team has COVID? Yeah. So I pulled up a different article that was talking about drug overdoses because you kind of kind of tickled that happened earlier today, and I just sent it to you. But yeah, it's the same. It's not the headline, but I read the article earlier, and it does do some comparisons to COVID, and it's very interesting when you're talking about the level of death, and I mean even the local deaths, like in Guelph, we've doubled the opium deaths, and COVID is still not the winner, just among either opium or COVID, right? Like COVID loses. So it's a very interesting thing to completely destroy our economy for about the same number of deaths as opium, and for many less deaths than opium in some places.
And once again, it comes back to, we're told it's about health and safety, but when you look at like the amount of, I hate to be so graphic, but like when you look at the amount of dead bodies, it's like, well, so what, you're saying that these dead bodies don't matter? These people's health and safety don't matter because it's not COVID? Like, like it's like the inconsistencies is just like mind numbing to try and it's, I guess it's kind of like, it's kind of funny, right? Because here we are trying to do all these mental gymnastics for them. All of these sort of like justifications to try and maybe we can try to trust our public officials, And it's like, we're trying to do all this extra legwork just to try to give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm tired of it.
Man, me too.
I'm real tired of it.
Me too. I think that it's funny that on one side of things, like we can kill seniors if they want to be killed, right? The right to die or whatever. The right to, right? You could do that in Canada. That's legal, right?
Yeah, it's like noble or something.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They're selling it hard too. It's a good thing to do. You know, blah, blah, blah.
It's messed up.
And if you're a baby, if you're unborn, not a baby, unborn, right? If you're unborn in Canada, I mean, you don't have rights. You don't have anybody even advocating for your rights. If you want to abuse your body and take opium and kill yourself, they will give you a safe injection site and give you the drugs to do it, right? But if you want to live your life, it is for your safety that you must stay in your home. You can't open your business or go to a small business. You can go to Walmart, but you can't go. For your safety, if you want drugs, we will get you enough drugs to kill yourself. If you want to kill yourself, we will supply you with the drugs to do that. But you cannot shop at a store that it might kill you.
Yeah, and if a bunch of Canadians are so crippled and overwhelmed emotionally and end up killing themselves during lockdown, we're not really going to talk about that as being a problem. Yeah. We're actually just going to completely ignore that, by the way.
Yeah. Did you see the kid from yesterday? The kid who got arrested by the police, and then
I heard he took his own life. Is that true?
Yeah, I know. I saw it too, and I thought, I've got it. That's terrible. But my goodness, and I mean, like, I personalized that kind of stuff. And he was a young man. He wasn't a kid or anything like that. He was probably like 22 or something like that. Maybe he was a bit older or younger. I'm not sure exactly. But certainly a lot of potential and lots of space in front of him to. I mean, this is getting arrested for COVID stuff. I mean, that's just like a notch in your belt at this point in time. Right, like but it's, and I mean, the laws are such that it's the inconsistencies are so crazy. I mean, like I said, they'll give you enough drugs to kill yourself, but they won't let you assess your own risk to play at a park. Like, come on, like, it's crazy.
And I haven't looked into that story to see kind of like if he had a motive or if he what his mental state was beforehand.
Yeah.
But it reminds me of like a really, really, really old story, like over a decade old, of like some young woman in BC whose like nude photos got leaked or something like this, and she ended up killing herself basically from like cyberbullying or whatever, getting like so aggressively kind of targeted and campaigned against.
Yeah.
And like for people like me and you, who will proudly show up to a debate as a PPC candidate and get kind of like attacked by everybody and like, oh, you're a racist, and we're just like smiling like, yeah, you're totally wrong, and I'm going to tell you why.
Yep.
Not everybody has that kind of resolve.
No, you're right.
And I would go as far as saying most people probably like, that's it. I didn't find that easy at all. Yep. And I'm pretty good at ignoring what people think. Yep. But for like the average person to be faced with like, I don't know what you would call it, maybe like COVID slander or like the shame mob, a struggle session, so to speak.
Yep.
It's people are so ruthless.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's the whole internet effect of, you're behind your keyboard, so you don't like, you're going to say something nasty because you have nothing better to do. But I mean, I feel like that's relevant to this story potentially.
Yeah,
if the guy took his own life just like that, that's crazy.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say before we got off on the drugs and all that other stuff, which was a worthwhile conversation, and it should be talked about more, the impacts. But what I was gonna say is going to a store without not wearing a mask, knowing that the public perception of people who are very close-minded and think this is just for another couple of weeks. We're definitely going to come out of this strong, or whatever the heck they think. They're going to try and judge you. They're going to try and get you to wear a mask. So even showing up to a store without a mask becomes a chore, becomes something you have to like, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to have to tell at least one person to either mind their own business or that I've already had COVID or whatever. Like, I'm immune, man. Don't worry about the vaccine. I don't use any of those things. I just say I'm exempt from the mask and I walk.
I just thought of a horrible social experiment.
Oh my goodness.
So forgive me, anybody who's watching, but essentially you get a totally fake look, like a totally fake, it's a fake dead body. It's not a real dead body, but like you put it in like a garbage bag like and everything.
Weekend at Bernie's? Oh, okay, no.
No. Like you get like a very horribly awful looking situation.
Oh no.
Like, and dragging a bag, but you're wearing a mask. So like you go into like a store and like, but you're wearing a mask and like you drag this bag of like, what the hell? Like, this guy just, is that a dead body sort of thing? But you see the reaction versus somebody who's just like, good looking, not wearing a mask, and see who gets stopped more often. I feel like
I think anybody dragging a mask would. I think anybody dragging what looked like a dead body.
He's wearing a mask, man.
But no, you're right. Like if you
being compliant.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe you're saying so you're saying the person not wearing a mask would be more stringently looked at. Yeah, no, I agree with that. Don't get fake dead bodies and drag them around. That's about it.
No, I'm not. Yeah, don't do that. Don't do any of that. That was just a brain fart. I don't know. I probably shouldn't have brought that up.
It's all good. But what I was going to say is it's hard to steal yourself up to go to a store sometimes if you're not wearing a mask. And now they're trying to make masks mandatory for outside. We're in the soft education phase now. Wear masks outside as much as possible, Dr. Etches says, Ottawa, right? But now, I mean, by summer, they'll be enforcing mandatory masks outside. It's a slow boil, right? The frog is being boiled slowly.
Yep.
It's last year, it would be unthinkable to wear masks outside. People were making fun of people in cars wearing masks by themselves.
Yep.
And by next summer, this summer, right? Like, we're going to have 5-kilometer lockdowns and roadblocks up, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Suffocating myself saves lives. But soft education phase, that's an interesting... Where is that like in regards to like the media propaganda drip?
Yeah, the boiling of the frog. So like last year, you would have 1 or 2 stories, and they were stories. I don't think that they actually got charged, or the charges either didn't stick or it was just stories about people getting charged, right? To scare people into compliance because they didn't actually want to charge people. And then when they started charging people under the Reopening Ontario Act, and Reopening Ontario is not what they're doing, despite the name of the act. But that was the soft education phase, right? Like, you're going to get
like
maybe charges. Yeah.
It's like
and then
the primer, yeah.
It's like, you knew about this, right? Well, exactly what the cops said to the kid, right? To the 20-year-old guy.
Yeah.
Why are you out? Why aren't you at home? You know that you're not supposed to be out. And the kid said like, well, we're out supporting small businesses. I was just going to get bubble tea, right? Like, what's the problem? We're outside. Yeah. Right, and they're just being crazy. And now, if you're not complying wearing masking outside, it's an easy way to spot who's not compliant. Right, you just target that guy and done.
Yeah,
right? So.
And I mean, I was fascinated that you had your own term for it, the soft education, because like I'm very fascinated in how the propaganda drip corresponds to the decisions from the public servants. Like another example would be in Ontario, right before Doug made the decision for lockdown on Boxing Day, there was this big thing in the media of like, well, Doug is going to meet the leaders of the hospitals and like the CEOs of the different hospitals. And like, so that was like, the plant in the head of like, okay, so he's talking to experts now. Yeah. And then, we're going to lock down again, like it kind of, that same sort of thing of priming people.
What you're talking about. So if you think one impacts the other, I think that the relationship is inverted to what you believe it to be. So like, if you think that the experts are responding to what the people are saying and then putting the news out to let them know that they're responding, that's not true. This is a plan that's being executed by people, and they're planting the media stories to make sure that this is manufactured consent. Right? This is you said you wanted this. See, here's the newspaper that said this public poll said this. So you said you wanted this. So here's the consent from the governed to have the governed, or to have the governor implement these new lockdowns. And it's nothing more than manufactured consent. It's nothing more than psychological warfare. It's nothing. I mean, and it is that. It is absolutely that. Has nothing to do with what people want. If you talk to people, they don't want this. If you talk to people, they don't want to live in this anymore. They're done. They're absolutely done. A lot of people are just done with this. It's garbage, and they just want it to go back to normal. But
yeah, I think and most people in their heart of hearts, are, but there is a lot of like weird psychological layers that I'm finding with different people. Like I love my mom to death, but she does this thing where she's like, I just want to follow the rules, I don't want to like, break the rules and all this stuff. And it's like, oh mom, like these people are con artists.
Yeah.
Like these rules, we shouldn't be. These rules are brand new, spanking new.
And they're not valid. They're not valid. And they're not proven to work. It's not like some people were saying it's like a seatbelt, right? Like, oh, a seatbelt saves your life. It's not. That's not true. Seatbelts definitely help and don't hurt. But masks and vaccines, they hurt. They hurt. There's impetigo. There's all sorts of impacts to masks. There's mold spores. There's all sorts of crazy stuff.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just going to say, it's like, mom, like if these people had their way, the rule would be that I had to give you like a lethal injection. So like we shouldn't be listening to these people.
You're getting a little old, mom.
If they were trying to get to the point, that's what the rule they would have. So don't listen to them now.
Yeah. Well, speaking of all of these, we were speaking of experts and them not being so expert, probably on a previous podcast, Anthony Fury put together a whole thread of Canadian experts that disagree with the lockdowns, disagree with the mask mandates, disagree with all of the stuff that we are currently having to live with. And I think that it's just worthwhile to have that out there and to talk about that. Like, while we've got people who are making the decisions and I think executing a plan on a schedule, there's no indication of data that backs up these movements from the leadership, the lockdowns or the mandatory masking or anything like that. No science backs this up. No. Show me a successful lockdown, and people say Australia and New Zealand, but their seasonality's flipped, right? Like it's currently like midsummer. It's like they're August or whatever. They're July maybe. So like their seasonality's flipped. The only reason the Victoria lockdowns worked is because of seasonality. Regardless of all that, the experts aren't, and it's just nice to have other people's opinion from everything from masking to lockdowns to everything. It's wild what's happening. It's wild.
Yeah, and once again, it's nothing new that more and more science is building up. And I mean science as in like the science that is completely ignored, the science that is not like given any sort of spotlight whatsoever, any sort of value in the mainstream conversation by our journalists or by our public servants. And this is nothing new. It's more pronounced, of course.
Yep.
And for the general public, it all seems so silly, right? Because everyone's kind of jumping in, because like I'll even have like normie people who are like sending me articles like, oh, look at these stats, look at those stats. And it's like the average person probably doesn't understand like, how you can totally frame stats in a different way to fit your narrative. Like you can flip numbers around. It's so easy to do this. And, admittedly, I worked in advertising sales, so I know what that's all about.
Yeah.
But it's just so funny because we have, lockdown science, the amount of deaths happening, and it's like, you can do a lot with those numbers.
Oh yeah.
But then the second that somebody like looks at the other numbers of like, well, let's compare this to other years and like compare it to like excess deaths from previous year. It's like, well, that information is just like nowhere to be seen. It's nowhere to be heard of.
Yep.
And I gotta admit, like it's quite the sleight of hand that happens to kind of maintain that narrative to like through mass media. And I don't know how these people sleep at night. Actually, oh wait, never mind. Sorry. They're taking nice vacations, and they probably have very high quality sleeping pills.
Good segue.
They're fine.
I was gonna say, the vacations is so true, but nobody's ever the bad guy in their own story. Nobody's ever. They're all helping people, right? They're all
doing what I gotta do.
Everything. It's just we've all got to sacrifice. Thank you.
I just say the words that they write for me.
Yes.
That famous quote.
Yeah. Thank you. That's Yaff, right? Yaffe. CEO of hospitals in Niagara and Hamilton resigns from provincial pandemic role rolls after Dominican Republic holiday. So, he spent an undetermined amount of time in the Dominican Republic during his weeks-long holiday. Do you think if we're in the middle of a pandemic that needs a new lockdown, do you think that's a great time for a vacation? I haven't taken a vacation in years. I got shut down on YouTube. I still did my show today.
So, and before we turn the camera on, I was saying this, like, I think vacations are a good thing. It's the hypocrisy of these people that is the problem.
Yeah.
And it's disappointing when people are like, oh, they went on vacation, like shame on them. And it's like, no. It's the hypocrisy that we should be shaming. Okay. Don't start shaming vacations. That's not a good sign when we have citizens who are like, shaming people who have taken it. Oh my God. Can you believe they exercise their freedom to like enjoy themselves?
Yeah. How dare they? How dare they go and hang out on a beach in Mexico, right? No, I want everybody. I want his lack of fear. I want this guy's lack of fear to translate to everybody. I want everybody to go, oh, this guy could go and hang out on a beach in the Dominican Republic and have beers and drinking and all that other stuff. He could do that. Then we could do that. We could go to Walmart. We can go to Joe's hardware store around the corner. We can go to the bait and tackle shop. We can, right? Like we can congregate on a beach.
We can choose not to wear a mask when we walk outside, especially.
Right. Yeah.
Or, that's the thing. It's the choice. Remember choice? Remember the option?
Up to you.
And I think what's so glaring about this stuff is you would think if all this science and all these expert opinions we're hearing, if that were true, you think they'd be terrified to travel. You think they would never in a million years want to travel. But yet these people that are preaching the most fear, talking about the most kind of like up-to-date COVID cases, look out, they just don't care about it. Like, oh yeah, well, I'll be fine. Me and my family will be fine. This is my vacation. It's like, it's almost like all this fear mongering they're doing. They know it's nothing but that, just fear mongering.
Yeah, that's true. And I think that they do know, like there's certainly no, they're not shy about it, right? Like they're not worried about coming off as
elitists.
Yeah, well, I don't think they're worried about anybody even saying anything, right? Like it's one of those things where they're so arrogant that it's difficult to, well, take it seriously. How can we go, okay, it's definitely worth listening to this guy's opinion. I'm putting hair and a mustache and a beard on him. Because there's a little drawing thing, and I've just been having fun while you were talking, so I just finished it off. But no, there's no taking it seriously, right? There's no ability to really take him seriously in his role. And I mean, I'm glad he quit, but that should not be the precedent. That should not be what we're going for. We should be going for freedom. That's what we want. That's the goal. Freedom is the goal.
I'm not glad that he quit, because I think that buys into the whole like you're right, vacation bad thing.
Yeah.
And I feel so bad for normies, because can you imagine taking everything that they say for granted?
Yeah.
And just kind of seeing them defy, like you'd have to believe that. I don't know how you would square that circle with like everything that's going on of, oh, well, they told me to be very afraid and they said this is very real, yet they didn't care at all. So I guess that's just because they're bad. But is any other gears turning in there? Like is anything else happening in there? Listen, I don't know. It's so sad because like, you continue to trust like these institutions.
Yeah.
But what I was originally going to say is like, of course they're being arrogant about it. Of course they're being like flagrantly elitist about it. They know how the media works in this country.
Yes.
And it's like it's going to protect the ruling class.
Mm-hmm.
I mean that's what we've seen time and time again, unless the ruling class steps out of line in a way that looks bad, basically. Unless they get caught, then it's like, okay, we need to discipline you now. Yeah,
discipline. If you're Bill Morneau, that means we'll endorse you for the next representation of Canada in the financial thing. Anyway,
me resigning has nothing to do with the We Charity scandal at all, guys. There's nothing to do with that.
If Scott Robson hadn't resigned, none of this would have happened. What's her face? Jody Wilson-Raybould that was the whole reason that he resigned, and then Jody Wilson-Raybould had to be shuffled from the Attorney General and SNC Lavalin. Those were the days, right? But Patty Haydu. So to talk about resignations and MPs, Patty Haydu didn't resign, despite all of her travel. And we're almost at the end of the show, but Patty Haydu didn't resign. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is disappointed in politicians who ignored travel bans, stopped short of censoring Health Canada Minister Patty Haydu, who repeatedly jetted home weekends after advising public to limit travel to essentials. For the record, Haydu said the purpose of the weekend flights home on private jets was various department briefings and meetings. There were no in-person meetings in Thunder Bay due to the ban on public gatherings. Office claimed working on constituency issues, but did not explain. So Patty Haydu is protected really from the fallout while being hypocritical, and this guy has to leave his role. I don't know, this guy, the CEO of the Niagara Health Units. And again, I think that all of it stinks. I think that Patty Haydu is completely not qualified at all for the role that she's filling, and I don't think that health officials should be advising lockdowns as the only solution 10 months, almost 11 months into this now. Like, honestly, It's wild. It's a wild situation.
And it's more of this mind-numbing, like absolutely maddening double standards that we always see. Yeah. It's like, oh, well, she's part of like the elite gang. She's a liberal cabinet member, so she's like, we can't fire her, right? Unless it was something really bad. We can't get her in trouble. But oh yeah, this other conservative MP or something, yeah, get rid of him. Get rid of him. And it's like, once again, it's like, I don't know how people, it's funny. There's no nuance on the issue, but when the double standard happens, they almost like try to justify a certain amount of nuance. Oh, well, it was different for this person than this person. And it's like, you're just kidding yourselves, folks.
Where did the flu go? Masks work. Then why do people why so many cases of COVID-19? Masks work.
Because of anti-maskers, actually.
Oh yes, no, it's
anti-maskers.
You're the problem.
Yep, absolutely. I sent you a tweet in chat there.
Yep.
That just kind of shows two headlines next to each other. One about a conservative MP, and then they frame who didn't follow the international travel guidelines, and then it shows an MP talking about their specific riding. Not that they're a Liberal MP or an NDP candidate, but just about their specific riding. So it's interesting how they're like shaming the conservatives as a conservative, but the other MP, he's just this MP, this like kind of ominous MP with no political label.
Yeah, he's just some MP who disappointed more constituents. Yep. Goodness me. So the media is carrying water. There's so much going on. It's hard to stay caught up. We delayed the show a day so we could comment on Trump and what's going on. And I feel like, we'll have to pick the story up again because we still don't have a president necessarily at this point in time. And I don't know what's going to happen. So we'll have to pick this up next week again. Are you available next Tuesday? What do you think?
I'll be there. I'll be there. And we'll see if Trump saved the world by then. Maybe
Biden's. Maybe Biden's got the U.S. back into the Paris Accords. Who knows?
Yeah. What do they say now? And amen and a woman.
I can't believe we forgot to talk about that right at the end of the show. Memes were fantastic for that one.
It reminds me of the people kind uber progressive stuff that's happening in Canada. Yeah. And it's like, it's funny because I was telling this to my mom and she was kind of like, what? And I'm like, yes, Mom, like that was not an SNL skit. Like that actually happened.
Real. Yeah.
That actually happened. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and the fact that amen is like a Latin translation of we all agree or something like that, right? And a woman is a beta male trying to virtue signal on the House floor, which is just unbelievable. And just, kind of throw up in your mouth a little bit. I was just blown away. And I thought it was funny that they spelled it like a woman with the MEN spelling. I thought like, why not like EH-WOMYN, like women, right? Like if you're going to be progressive, man, go all the way. Yeah. It's like being vegan and eating eggs still, right? Like, come on, man.
Yeah. Or ice cream. Yeah. No,
Hypocrite.
When it comes to those silly progressivisms, like you can spot a progressivism if you just ask the question, where does it end? Because usually the answer to a progressivism is like, there is no end.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you could go all the way back. Well, man invented the wheel. It's like, get rid of the wheels.
They're done.
They're toxic. Get rid of the wheels. We don't like the wheels. Everything that is circular, I don't like, because a man invented it. It's toxic. Like, we're gonna be living in mud huts if you want to. If we listen to these social science majors all the time.
I watched a YouTube channel that showed how the guy built the mud huts. It was like the ancient technology, and he has like 4 different style of houses that he built. And I just saw one. It just popped up on my feed. This is like, I don't know, a year ago. And I watched it. And I was like, wow, like he just built that house out of like things that were around. But they could be comfortable, but I prefer my house, I think. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know the Wi-Fi would be in the mud hut.
Yeah, not in the winter either. Yeah. I don't think. I don't know how insulated they are.
Make sure the fire doesn't go out. That's it. Insulated. Right. Whew, you just stay close to the fire. All right, that's enough out of us, eh? What do you think? Where can they find you, Greg?
Find me on my YouTube channel, Greg Wycliffe. Find me on my Twitter, GDub, GDDUB. I'll see you there.
Nice. You can no longer find me on YouTube. Apparently, I angered the YouTube censors, so I got a week's strike. So I'm on Rumble all week this week. This one will be on YouTube, but you can check me out at CanadaPoly.com, at SpeakingMoistly.co. That's mine and Greg's back catalog. And I'll deal with the website loading issue soon. The speed of it's not loading very fast. I don't like that. And you can find me at CanadaReport.co. That's my scratch pad. That's where I'm working on things and jot down ideas, and you can check out what I'm working on. Thanks for watching.
Hold on. Sorry, your channel's up, but you can't post on it right now?
I can't post. Yeah, I've got a strike, so I'm banned from posting for a week. I don't know if that's 5 days or 7 days. But I haven't. I've been posting on YouTube. I have more than 1,100 or 1,300 videos or something like that. I've been posting on YouTube every day for years, 4 years.
Right.
Since, 2.5, 3 years. So wild. That's weird.
Yeah,
it's weird. I didn't upload today.
You committed the sin of speculating an election.
How dare!
Or was it speculating official health stats?
Yeah, they sent me a list. They said that I violated the medical information terms of service, and then they sent me, like, you can click on a link. So I clicked on the link, and it gave me like a list of examples, but they didn't tell me when in my video what I said to violate the terms. They just gave me a list of examples. Examples included: you cannot tell people that holding your breath is a way to avoid COVID-19. And I was like, did I do that? Did I say that? Like, and I don't think I said that, but I'm sure the mask stuff or any of the, I'm sure I talked about things that somebody who didn't like my opinion on things would consider not correct medical advice or something. I'm not sure, but that's it. Yeah.
It's interesting how having that in the official terms of service almost like creates like a straw man to whatever you said.
Yeah.
It's like whatever you said is the same thing as saying, like, oh, hold your breath to avoid getting COVID. Just completely absurd. Like, who would say that? Who's having this opinion?
Yeah, it was ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So I don't know. It's but they're just trying to get people off their platform. People who say things that they don't like or whatever. I'm not sure. You can.
We love YouTube. We love Susan. We love to be here, so it's all good. Yeah.
I don't know, man. I'm on Rumble. I'm checking out Rumble. All right, that's enough out of us. Thanks for watching, everybody. Here's the Prime Minister to play us out.
Speaking moistly, keep 2 meters apart. Speaking moistly.